Hey, this is Wileen Benson, and you are on the Daily Gratitude Call, where we start every day in gratitude. Gratitude is the highest energy state that we can be in. It creates a frequency of positive vibration that attracts positive experiences into our lives. Hey everybody, this is Wileen Benson, and this is our Daily Gratitude Call. I'm super excited for what we get to discover today. And before we get started, Deepti, I'm giving you a little heads up. We're going to do this at the beginning instead of waiting to the end. And one of our regular live participants is not here today. And it's her birthday. Her name's Melinda, and we're gonna sing happy birthday to her at the beginning here. Deepti on our call is so good at remembering people's birthdays and making sure that everybody gets recognized for celebratory moments. And I'm super grateful for her. So I'm just going to invite everybody to unmute. And I have a little pet peeve that this happy birthday song sounds like a funeral march if it's sung too slowly. And so for my sake, we're going to sing this fast. All right. So Deepti, I think you had some music or something you wanted to play, and then I'm just going to invite everybody, go ahead and unmute. And as soon as we hear that music, I'll be the leader and we'll start that. Yes, I love the fast music. Okay. Happy birthday to you. Come on, everybody.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Melinda. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, Melinda. We love you.
Melinda, we love you. We miss you on the
Happy birthday, Melinda.
Thank you, Deepti, for the music, and thanks everybody. Thanks for indulging my pet peeve. Oh, I love you all so much, and I'm also just super grateful for everybody that's here live on the call. Super grateful for everybody that's listening to the podcast. And this is the day after Thanksgiving. Black Friday, somebody described Black Friday to me yesterday. It says that everybody gets up so early to go to the store that it's black outside. And I was like, okay, I can call it Black Friday if that's what it means. And let's see, what was the other thing? Somebody else was talking about it. I can't remember what the other one was. Anyway, I found 2 new reasons to say Black Friday with a smile on my face and think that's a good thing. So thank you for being here live on our call on today, the first, traditionally the first shopping day of Christmas after Thanksgiving. And I hope you all had a wonderful Thanksgiving and just I've been loving the week. It's been just a really Thanksgiving, gratitude giving week for me, and I hope you're having just a wonderful time. Today, someone, Deepti, I think, mentioned that she was grateful that she was sticking to a strict mental diet. And I had mentioned about body's feedback. You know, I know what I ate the day before, because of how my body feels in the morning. And I typically eat very fresh and whole and clean and not overeat. And yesterday and the day before, I had 4 slices of pie total over the last 2 days. And, you know, some extra little things that have made me really recognize that as I got up this morning. And a couple of other things that were mentioned about diet. So Deepti's was a mental diet, and mine was a physical diet. Lots of other things that were mentioned. So there's lots of different ways that we could go with this. And so we're going to set our timer for 90 seconds and have a private silent meditation on gratitude for strict diets. And the word strict, Mary, I was thinking of you also, how you have this new habit that you're wanting to put into place and trying to be strict with these new habits. So I think there's a lot of ways that this could go depending on what your situation is and how God chooses to inspire you today. So I've got the timer set for 90 seconds, and we're going to do a private silent meditation on gratitude for strict diets, and we'll see what comes up. Begin. All right. All right, this last little thought here. Okay, the first thing that my mind went to, that my inspiration went to, was a strict diet of like fermental things that I watch on TV, books that I read, people I surround myself with. And then the word conscious choice came to me because nobody ties me in a chair and props my eyes open and commands me to watch something or read a book, or nobody ties me in a chair and surrounds me with negative people, with them shouting, rude things at me or something. That doesn't happen. I'm sure that at some point, there may have been someone at some in some crazy place where something like that might have happened. But for me, I've never had that happen. And so conscious choice is actually how that's my strict diet right there, is basically my choice. My husband and I did go on a food diet, a couple of years ago. He had gained quite a bit of weight, and I had a little extra weight around my middle. And so we went on this diet for a whole year, and we lost quite a bit of weight. And then we got to a point where it was like, okay, we can stop losing weight now. And we both were getting like way too skinny. So we had to actually go off. We thought that it was going to be one that would, we get to where our normal body weight wanted to be, and then it would just like maintain. But we just kept losing weight. And it was like scary. And so we just went off of it and just went back to regular stuff. And I started doing some research online, and everybody was conflicting each other. It was like fast, or eat every 2 hours, or don't eat meat, or do eat meat, or don't eat dairy, or do eat dairy, or, it's just like, okay, somebody, let's see what the real thing is. And I realized that if I turn to man for my answers, all I got was confusion. And so I went to God, and my thought was like in the Garden of Eden, God prepared everything for Adam and Eve. And so I decided to, go back to what God had intended in the beginning. I do eat meat, but I don't eat it a lot. And I eat mostly fruits and vegetables, but I do indulge. I'm a master pie maker, like I mentioned before, and I love dessert. And so I do indulge in that. But I am grateful and happy with the way that my body is when I adhere to the strict diet that I consciously choose. I need to write that down. Who else has something that they would like to share?
I think I will. It's just amazing, Wileen, how we're on the same page so often.
Awesome.
Because that's exactly, I'll just reiterate, it's like I'm grateful for the healthy, strict diet I choose.
Mhm.
And that I've done that for so long that I know the benefits. There are times I'm like, oh, I'm just going to eat something different. I'm going to eat what you guys eat just because. And then I'm like, ugh, I just,
Mhm.
or sometimes I do enjoy it, but then I just go right back to my diet, to my regular way of eating. The reason I love that is that I just saw how that actually helps. Well, that helps my body and my mind, which is a good example for the other areas of my life that I'm wanting
Mhm.
to change. So, like going to bed early.
Mhm.
There are benefits from that. Even when there's fun things going on, or I think I'm bonding, or I could bond, my going to bed isn't going to change the love I have for anybody
Mm.
or our interactions with each other. And they're totally supportive of me on my strict diet of going to bed early. So I love
Beautiful.
that.
Awesome. You know, that FOMO, fear of missing out,
Mhm.
that causes us to make unconscious choices, and it causes us to make conscious choices that really don't serve us, and it doesn't serve other people either. Like there's no, but that's probably the biggest reason why we don't adhere, we don't consciously choose according to our strict, what we choose for ourselves. Thank you.
Mhm.
Even if it's fear of missing out of something good, like, hanging out with friends or whatever. Thank you. Robert, and then Deep Tea.
A chiropractor had a definition of diet on his wall, and he broke it down as die.
Oh.
And I thought, wasn't it interesting? Because I've tried to comprehend how dieting and die go together. And the jury's still out trying to understand that, but I always thought that was very fascinating. Having said that, since we're talking about diet,
yeah, that is interesting.
Yeah, I've been on a diet from watching TV since 9/11, whenever that took place. I think it's 2002. Wow. And I haven't missed it. Maybe SpongeBob, but that aside.
I love SpongeBob.
Yeah. So
the old ones.
That's been. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I don't watch it enough to know. But I always said I watch SpongeBob in order to lower my IQ for my children. But none of that being silly, of course. But any case, yeah, I just been on a diet from watching TV, and I haven't missed it. So when you talked about nobody forces you to prop your eyes open and listen or adhere to what somebody else is saying, I thought, I wonder if you do that on your own by watching TV, and nobody has to force you to.
Yeah, nobody has to.
No, you're doing it yourself. So I just thought,
I think we can be our own worst enemy sometimes.
Yeah.
Thank you. Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Robert. Deep Tea.
So there are two aspects I want to cover here. One is the physical you eat food about. Now, in general, people will be like, eggs are good for health. But it isn't necessary that that egg is good for your energy system. And this is what I'm currently learning. Egg can be good for your energy system, but it cannot be good for me when in generic the thing is egg is good for health. And there's a little trick to that, which in case you guys want to just try for fun, you just take any food in the palm of your hand, like a little thing, like maybe a little chocolate or something that fits in your hand, and you just put it in your abdomen area. And if you're and you have to keep your feet apart, like 1-2 inches feet apart, and you just keep it on your abdomen with that food on your stomach. And if your body moves in the forward direction, that food is good for you. And if you move
Mm.
backwards, if you know slow backwards, that food is not good for you.
I've
So
done
this is
that
one.
before. It's like an energy testing, like a muscle testing type
Yes,
thing where you stand there and
yes,
your body leans either forward or backward, depending on if it's good for you. It works. Thank you.
it
And what else did you
definitely
want to share?
works. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to share is with the word mental diet, it's just the story you tell yourself, because there is no such thing as
Mm,
truth or false except our belief systems. So there's this kind of a person I know. He's the kind of person who will do a lot of wishful thinking, but what he'll expect is the worst, and so
mm,
that becomes his story, and his worst expectations always manifest for him. And then he comes and asks me that why does it keep manifesting, and I tell
mm,
him, because you keep talking about the worst case scenarios, one, and second is you believed in that story. If you keep believing that that is possible, you have the choice that if you believe, oh, that's not going to happen to me, and I promise that won't happen to you. So the stories that we believe to buy
mm.
is actually what creates a reality. So that is the reason that I am keeping a strict mental diet these days, because people say there are only two sides to the story, or there are two sides to a coin. So uh I really invite everyone to, have a little open mind than the usual, or, what the society teaches us, and start to really think, what stories can you be experiencing? Because really in any situation there can be many possibilities. So the more we are open minded or expansive, the more stories you could be experiencing, or what are the stories you want to live by. And doesn't matter if somebody agrees to you or they don't. Once you create it, they're going to come behind you asking, how did you get that? So it's really important to feed your brain with the right stuff, with the right beliefs, and everything starts working then.
Awesome. That gift of choice comes into that as well. If we can choose to change our story based on the new beliefs and the new thoughts and everything that we start feeding ourselves. And I want to tie what you said about the mental to the physical as well. My story is not your story. If I have a story of negativity and that this keeps manifesting in my life, then we don't have to adopt that story and say, oh, it's not possible because this person tried and he couldn't do it. We get to choose what our story is based. We can change our beliefs, and to also be kind of in that ebb and flow a little bit, because today it might not, my body might not want eggs, but tomorrow it might want eggs. It's not that eggs are bad. It's just that today my body needs something else. So I love
Exactly.
that, just flexibility that we can allow ourselves. Thank you. Brittany, and then Kathy and Tyree and Betsy. I've got you all down. So we'll start with Brittany.
Oh, I had everything I was going to say, and then I've just enjoyed what everybody's been saying so much, and I can't remember exactly.
That's okay. Whatever you share is going to be perfect.
Okay. Okay. You know what I think this is what I'm going to share. Okay. I'm going to bear all. So everybody hold on tight. Okay. You ready?
Ready.
When thinking about diets, just as of late, what came to my mind was, well, I'll mention this, nothing as far as any kind of physical diet, merely because I watched my mom be on a diet for 40 years and I was like, absolutely not. Like, absolutely not. That's no way to live. And so I've never kind of fallen into any kind of restriction or anything like that, because I just have chosen to respect and honor my body from a different perspective than I watched growing up. Okay, so, but what I thought of was that I didn't realize, but just kind of operating out of survival mode, I've done for years now. And as a part of that, I feel like I have just put, like, to protect myself, I thought a lot about myself, and I didn't realize it just until recently. And I have 4 little kids, and I thought, how can I be more fulfilled as a mom? And you always hear, okay, if you're not happy, it's because you're selfish. And I was thinking, okay, I have no time to be selfish. I've got 8 little hands reaching up to me all the time. Like, I am constantly doing, constantly thinking, thinking about them. And then one day in my GPS, I realized, what if I'm not thinking about them and what I can do to teach, listen, inspire, uplift them in that day? What if I'm focused on how me, may be messing them up? And that is
Mm.
that's the barrier. And you know what? It was so true. I
Mm.
wasn't thinking, oh, I'm constantly focused on my kids. There's no way that I can be this selfish. I was thinking about how I might be messing them up. And that was causing any and all conflicts almost. And so just as I've laid that to rest, I've accepted it and been grateful for it. And then I just let it right go. And I realign with my spirit, which I've always loved children. And I've always loved to just look at their shining countenances and just enjoy them and soak them up, and even feel
Mhm.
more of the spirit when I'm around them, because they're like these little celestial uh, beings. They're just so pure and so full of light. It's been so miraculous. And I was just so grateful for that. I have no idea. So my diet was, as far as like to bring it around full circle, what I thought about was a strict diet of not thinking about myself and just giving myself over to my divine calling. And then it's just like, it's so incredible. There's no words. There's no words.
Wow. And it even says in the scriptures, if you lose yourself, you gain everything.
Right.
And
That was the
oh my
scripture.
gosh.
I'm sorry. That was the scripture that I had written down. If a man seeketh his own life, he shall lose it. But if ye, what is it? But if you give yourself, do you guys know you guys
Yeah, we
know
know
what
which one it
Wiley
is.
and I are talking about?
You can
Yeah.
look it up and post it on the Facebook group, Breakthrough with Gratitude. That would
Okay.
be awesome. Thank you so much. Wow, what a powerful manifestation, Brittany. And the only thing that shifted was fear to love, fear of messing my kids up, to loving, just being a mom and seeing my children and how they respond and everything. And I just have to comment on something that you said about survival mode and protecting yourself. Any kind of a choice that we're making, a behavior choice that we're making, whether that be dieting, talking about your mom, a lifetime of dieting, it's a form of addiction to stay safe, to stay just above survival. That's what any choice that we're making that is a behavioral choice that we constantly go to, that we feel keeps us safe, it's an addiction. And it's something that just keeps us barely above survival. It's still in fear. It's just like, I'm afraid I'm going to die. I'm afraid my kids are going to die. I'm afraid, that I'm going to, if I'm fat, then my standing in society will die. It's just a way to stay safe, and that is not a way to live. Thank you, Brittany. Kathy, and then Tyree.
I'll be brief as much as I can. The first thing that came to me was just the word diet. I had a conversation with my sister. This was years ago, and she was like, "Diet is whatever you're eating." In the Bible, there was a diet of locusts and honey. That was his diet.
Mhm.
But so it really comes down to what meaning are we attaching to the words, the feelings,
The
our own meaning.
connotation. Mhm.
Yeah. And meaning that we give to everything. Um, and we choose that sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously. But what's interesting to me is that I was attaching more meaning to the word strict than I was diet. And so thinking about the strictness from childhood, just, I mean, a lot of the things that we attach meaning to, also FOMO and all of these things. It's like, what meaning are we attaching, and the choices that we're making? And there are consequences to our choices, and hopefully we're making good choices for good consequences. But just really thinking about it, attaching meaning, and really tuning into what is the diet that my body is needing most.
Yeah, intuitively knowing. And I agree. And there's a couple of comments here in the chat that I'm going to read too, because you're right. You know, it's like, what is your mental diet, instead of I'm going on a mental diet. And you know, you can make a conscious choice to go on a mental diet of positivity. The diet, and it could be, I'm going on a diet of, I don't know, you know, whatever. It doesn't have to mean eating less. It can mean eating more. It could mean learning more. It could mean gathering more. There's diet doesn't have to be, even though it's a strict, does not have to be restrictive. Well, I guess it is a little bit restrictive, but when we think of restrictive, we think of small, tiny, I'm going to be starving. That is a connotation. That is a belief. That is, you know, just a meaning that we've assigned to the word. It's it does not mean it, the word diet, the word strict, neither of those means less. Couple comments in the chat I'll read real quickly, and then we'll go on to Tyree. Rachel says, guidelines is what came to me, and I'm grateful for the word of wisdom. And Rachel, if you would post that word of wisdom in the Breakthrough with Gratitude, that's in a scripture that is a book that is recognized as scripture in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. There's a chapter in there that is called the Word of Wisdom, and it's all about what to eat, what not to eat, things like that. And that's actually the diet that I've been following, Rachel. Grateful for the word of wisdom to have a guideline, and then the choice to intuitively listen to my body and feed it what it needs and wants with a smile on my face, because it feels good to take care of myself. That's awesome. Deep Tea says, I'm blessed to have a lean body. I don't need diets, but I agree you should honor your body just the way it is, because we criticize it so much and be mean to it, forgetting our bodies do so much for us every single day. And yeah. Let's see. Mary says, I don't see diet as lack. It is a choice to eat whole natural foods that are good and yummy for my body. If God didn't make it, don't eat it. I still enjoy eating. Yeah. And Mary, I know with your kale diet that you do, you eat a ton of kale. So it's definitely not eating less. It's eating a lot. And you can eat a lot more of those kinds of things and feel fuller, and your body loves you more. And yeah, so more is better on some things. Tyree, and then Betsy, and then Robert.
So as far as food diet, I spent years researching and reading and doing all of these things and finding what I felt was right, because there is so much contradiction, and applying and knowing are two different things for me still. But I have come to a place where I believe that when we eat seasonally and following the word of wisdom, but also like for example, with wheat, we have some wheat sensitivity in my family. And so I've pondered on that a lot, because in the word of wisdom, it talks about how grain is the staff of life. And I'm like, okay, Heavenly Father, how is that the staff of life if I can't eat it? And obviously there's other grains, but I also came to realize that sourdough is an important process for wheat because it breaks down the gluten. And anyway, so that's been something that I believe fermenting foods is definitely an important part of that process, as well as eating seasonally. Because for example, you look at eggs, when are they abundant? They're abundant in the later spring, the summer, and even the fall, but not in the winter. And so you shouldn't eat as many eggs in the winter. But then meat is abundant. You typically butcher animals in the fall, anyway, so I've just
That's
come to that
interesting.
conclusion. And then as far as a mental diet, I I was on a coaching call, and she asked for volunteers, and so I did, because I just had an argument with my husband that has been ongoing through our whole marriage. And as she took me through this process of identifying the circumstance, and then my thoughts from the circumstance, and then my feelings, actions, and results, I realized that I had been thinking things that wasn't even in my consciousness. I mean, I had some feeling there was something going on, but I didn't even realize what I was thinking. And just by changing my thoughts, that has changed our marriage. And it was also building on our sex transmutation chapters in the World's Way to Wealth, or the
Mhm.
Lord's
Lord's way to wealth.
the Lord's Way to
Thank you
Wealth.
for that
Oh my
clarification.
goodness. Yes, the Lord's Way of Wealth. And all of those things together has completely changed our marriage, like in
That's
one
so
day.
awesome.
And it was
Wow.
amazing. And and so that our thoughts are so important. And people say that, oh, it's not a big deal, what I watch doesn't affect me, what I listen to, that is not true.
I
I'm a
love
firm
that.
believer that that is never the case. It might not affect you immediately, but it does affect you. That's my
Awesome. I
take
love
on
that. And I
that.
love that you made that distinction between like the body and the mind and the rate of change. The change begins happening inside the body immediately and outside in your environment and everything when you make those changes in your mind. And the change in the mind is instantaneous. When you realize what's happening and you find a new way, and that blind spot is uncovered, and you totally, it's like, yes, I want to embrace this. It's like when we create our new beliefs in our permission process. Yes, I want to embrace this. I don't want to continue creating what that limiting belief was creating. And so you can make that change immediately in your mind and be very consciously, confident in it. The change in the environment might take a little bit longer, but I'm sure like the way that you're showing up with your husband, he's probably at first he might be like, what's going on here? This is different than I'm used to. And there might be a little bit of hesitation, but that change in our environment or our body, making a change in the way that we eat or whatever, sometimes the body doesn't show on the outside the change, but there is stuff happening. Change is instantaneous. It's the change within our cells and our organs, and everything begins happening immediately as soon as we change our mind. So the fastest way to have the perfect body, the perfect life, the perfect environment, everything is to change your mind.
I also
Instantaneous.
wanted to add one more thing. So when I was doing the sugar and flour fast,
Mhm.
I've been fighting with myself for years to go to bed early. And when I did the sugar and flour fast, my body, I don't know if I just didn't have like the uppers from the sugar or what, but by 9 o'clock, I was like, okay, I can't even function anymore. It's time to go to bed.
Awesome.
So that was the nice benefit of that.
That's way cool. And
So
it's possible because you've been wanting to go to bed early for years. This inspiration to do the fast may have been just granting you that wish. God moves in mysterious ways.
totally.
Betsy, you had something, and I think Robert, you are unmuted as well to share something else. Go ahead.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So yeah, when I think of a strict diet, I think back to my dad as when I was a little girl, and just he taught me this principle of garbage in and garbage out. And I'm pretty sure he was teaching me not to say foul language. But that phrase, those 3 words have just resonated in such beautiful ways through my life. I have watched a loved one drink in media and be solitude in their room, and over these months just become angry and conspiracy theory, and just really shift and change in every conversation that we have. And it's so sad to watch. And it makes me, live even more vibrantly on the other side of it. But I realized that it is a choice of what we put into ourself in our senses, that we can choose to hide people from social media or not watch things. We can unfollow people. And even the choice about our language is we can choose to use cuss words or vibrant words, or ways that people like to shock, or we can really choose to up level, and we can find ways to express ourselves in a classy way and not a crass way. I mean, the upside of this is really just our self-talk. So instead of the garbage in, garbage out, my mantra is positive in and positive out. And when I think of the word strict, I think of, maybe the old-fashioned strict teacher that is trying to teach her students something, and it's very controlled. But also she's got specific curricula to teach students. And so it's, do it in this way. This is the successful way. And when we put the word strict into ourselves, we get to choose to adhere to our strict choices. And if we choose the night before to wake up at a certain time the next day, we can follow our promptings, or we could choose to press a snooze button. And so it's like, are we really choosing to adhere to our higher selves? And so when I think back to Dad and the garbage in, garbage out, or shifting it to positive in and positive out, it's really everything in our entire environment. I mean, I know a lot of people are talking about food with diet, but our diet is everything that we think, everything that we hear. What are we breathing in? What do we allow ourselves to see? And then what are we feeling? Are we feeling a yucky, bad vibe? And are we staying in that environment? And so it just, I ended with my mantra in life of that I will choose smiley wrinkles rather than frowny ones all day long. And it really can show in your face as you're an older person, the kind of life you've led and chosen, and it can show up in your body, and the tension in your body can show up different ways. And so, yeah, there's so many elements to the strict diet of life. And the highest one, again, is our spirituality. My daily choice is scripture, and in talking with God, and those good habits, and choosing that positivity.
Awesome. Thank you. And I'm glad that you mentioned smiling, because I've seen someone who has those, frown furrows between their eyebrows and, the sides of their face. But if they smile, it's like all of that disappears. And it's just that instantaneous upshifting is so beautiful on a face, on a countenance. And something that you mentioned, the word controlled, because when we think about strict, and it's like, I'm going to do this, and, no matter what or whatever, and it does feel kind of controlled. But the word discipline came to me, and the root word of discipline is disciple. And we think about, the choices that Christ made while he was here on the earth. And there was never a question. He always adhered to his strict diet of truth and righteousness and goodness and mercy and all of the things, that we aspire to be. So that word discipline really fits for me.
Oh, I love that. Yes, it's, I wrote down controlled choice. Yes.
Disciplined choice. I love that.
Yeah.
Awesome. I'm going to read these, and I know we're going to go over, or we probably already are over, but that's okay. This is an awesome conversation. So I want to read what has been written in the chat here. Mary says, EINKORN, inkhorn or einkorn, wheat, and farro. And I've had farro, and it's awesome. Farro are an ancient wheat, which most people with a gluten intolerance can eat, because it does not have glyphosates, which is what is the most common reason for those who think they can't eat gluten. it's been amazing for me to be able to eat it where I haven't eaten wheat for 20 years because of the reaction I've always had to it. I think that that's interesting as we talk about like going back to, returning to Eden, or back to, the olden days when nobody had refrigeration and everybody just ate seasonally. And a lot of our problems, the health problems and things that we have developed is not because there's something wrong with the food. It's because of the changes, that men have made to God's food. And so that's something to consider. Yeah. So Robert, and then we will move into a short permission process.
So maybe what this conversation answers with the chiropractors saying about diet and die, that without the proper diet, you die.
Okay. And I think there was a doctor, and maybe somebody can find this quote and post it on the Breakthrough with Gratitude group, that, it was Brittany that shared this with me. So Brittany, you'll have easy access to this. There's a doctor from a long time ago that said that the medicine of the future is good food. Can you quote it? Do you have that handy, or do you have that memorized?
Yeah, well, yes, just Hippocrates. I know Deepti probably
Okay.
knows this, but Hippocrates said, "Let food be thy medicine," and that's it.
Yes. I love that. And back in Hippocrates' day, all of the things that we've done to our food to refine it didn't exist. So that's something to consider.
Mm-hmm.
Well, love you guys. Thank you so much for what you've shared. Let's go ahead and shift into a short permission process, and then I'll send you on your way to the to implement all that we have learned. Go ahead and take a deep breath. And thank you for being here. Thank you for contributing in such a powerful way for us to shift our thinking on this idea of strict and this idea of diet. And what a wonderful shift this is to shifting more into just neutral, actually, of seeing these words neutrally and just understanding they are just words. And we've added connotations that mean things, but we can consciously choose to create different meanings, and also meanings that will serve us. And so go ahead and take one more deep breath. And in this moment, I just invite you to write your own definition of strict and your own definition of diet as two separate words, based on what you've learned and based on what you're embracing of these new concepts that have been shared. And then after you have written the two separate definitions, bring those two together into one single new belief about strict diets. Just pull out some words out of both of those definitions and write one single new belief about strict diets. And normally we go through the process of identifying the limiting belief and examining the cost. This new belief, let this new belief be the instantaneous change that you have been seeking in your life around this word strict diets. And the universe can't tell the difference between, does she mean body diets? Does he mean mental diet? Like, what is she talking about? The universe takes whatever you put energy into, the words that you string together and create beliefs about, the universe takes that and expresses it in all ways. So whatever this new belief is, this is going to affect you financially. This is going to affect you socially. It's with your relationships. It will affect you mentally with the words that you think, emotionally with the way that you react to things. It will affect your body, all the different ways that the universe can interpret these words. This is what you will begin to experience. And if you'd like, you can add a couple more new beliefs that will help to strengthen your resolve in allowing this change to happen in your life? And then finally, what is the one most important thing that you could do today to give some evidence and give some proof to these new beliefs that you have just written? What is the one most important thing? What's your inspired shortcut to becoming what you have just written on your paper as the definition of strict diet, of what you are embracing? And in a moment, we're going to go ahead and end the call. I'm not going to open it up for shares today because we've had so much time to share before, but I do want to invite you to go to the Breakthrough with Gratitude page and write your new definition of strict diets. I think everybody in the world needs to have a new definition of strict diets that will be positive, that will be serving, and will be loving to yourself and others. And while you're gathering your thoughts on those and getting ready to end the call, I just want to also invite anyone, if you're still struggling in this area at all, to reach out to me, to go to askwilene.com, and you can schedule a 15-minute call. And we can have a little chat and gain some new insight into whatever it is that you're struggling with. askwilene.com. Thank you so much for joining us today. This has been an awesome discussion. It's been really helpful for me. And I'm just super excited to move forward from Thanksgiving Day, the day after Thanksgiving, and through the rest of the year with this new definition of strict diets, and see what happens. Watch what the changes that happen in my life. And I encourage you to maybe even keep a journal or write in your GPS planner, if you have one of those, your notes about today, and then put a little note, like maybe a month from now, at the end of your planner or somewhere in your calendar or something, to check back on page this and read what you wrote so that you can mark that progress, because I know making this conscious change in your life is going to make some changes in your life all around. There's going to be some different result that gets to happen. Super excited for that for you. We will not be together on the weekends, so continue doing your daily GPS, your gratitude practice, and then we will be back together on Monday morning, 7 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Love
everybody.
you.
Bye, everyone.
Hey, thanks so much for listening. And I encourage you to tune in every day to the Daily Gratitude Call. And the Daily Gratitude Call happens live every weekday morning. I'd love to have you join. So to find out how to join live, go to my website, WileenBenson.com. Thanks for tuning in.